Thank you. Joining me now for more, Jane Horton. She's the widow of Army Specialist and Sniper Christopher Horton and a Concerned Veterans for America Military Families Advisor. Also Clint Bruce, who's a former Navy SEAL who was friends with the American sniper Chris Kyle. Thank you both so much for being here. Jane, let me start with you, just so the audience doesn't get confused. Your husband was Chris, but a different Chris, a different sniper than Chris Kyle. But you are not happy with Michael Moore and the others who are taking this opportunity, even though Michael Moore is now trying to pretend that his tweets had nothing to do with this movie, that in his words, American snipers are cowards, not heroes.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I do want to give my condolences to the Moore family for the loss of their service member in defense of our country. But second of all, I want to say that there's no way that you can compare a World War II enemy sniper to a modern-day sniper that has volunteered to serve his country, that has chosen one of the most dangerous positions, that he knows that he'll be one of the biggest enemy targets. A modern-day sniper is the equivalent of going out onto the battlefield with a neon sign that says, "Shoot and kill me first." They know what they're getting into. They volunteered to serve, and they know that they're taking one of the most dangerous positions.
And your husband, too, who was killed at 26, died in Afghanistan, knew that not only was there a risk he would die, of course, but knew in a letter he wrote to a young boy who wanted to be a sniper, wrote as follows. Snipers have two reputations. One is the selfless elite hero that moves around the battlefield alone and undetected, a true bane of the enemy. The other is a dirty, sneaky assassin, honorless and evil. The latter, he writes, is far from the truth, yet if you stick with this path, you will be accused of this. He knew, and likely Chris Kyle knew, that this is how some would view them.
Absolutely. He knew what he was getting into. He knew that being a sniper was one of the most targeted positions over in Afghanistan and in Iraq, but also he chose it because he knew it was also one of the most lethal, that he would be making the greatest difference to protect our freedoms in America, and because he wanted to protect our country and serve us.
Clint, I know you say you find it ironic that folks like Michael Moore and others on the left, not solely on the left, but Seth Rogen, this actor, of course, he denies it too. Now they're all denying it. But, the tweets are out there in black and white. The audience can make up its own mind. You find it ironic that these guys are so free with the criticisms.
Yeah, well, first, before I say anything about that, if I could just take a moment to thank Jane for being here. I never had the opportunity to know your husband, but with what you're doing right now, you keep him alive, and that means so much to me and the men he served with, and he'd be so proud of you. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank you, who I believe to be our wives and moms, to be some of the greatest heroes our nation's ever had. Megan, the beautiful and brutal irony is that's what we fought for. We fought for people to have an opportunity to say things we don't agree with, we don't believe in, and we think are wrong. And sometimes with that, you just sit back there and take kind of a gentle peace and knowing that, you paid for that ticket, that opportunity for them to say things that you don't necessarily agree with. You
knew Chris Kyle. Some of the criticism against him is he's, as the sign says, a murderer who enjoyed the killing. And his book reportedly describes those he killed as damn savages. I couldn't give a flying F about the Iraqis. My only regret is that I didn't kill more. This is what has some saying he does not to be, and I quote, honored in a movie.
Yeah, and I think that's something that happens all the time when you take a two-dimensional picture of someone and you don't really know them. The Chris I know isn't that person, and that's a chapter, that's a piece of who we all are in seasons like that when we're doing those things. But the Chris I wish most people knew is the charming, funny, folksy, guy who played jokes on people and always let you know he was happy to see you. And
but do you think, Clint, that there's a cluelessness? Because I don't understand how, when you get sent into war, as most of us have not, and you have, you're supposed to look at the enemy as kind, loving human beings who have families and so on. I mean, don't you have to get yourself into that sort of mentality?
You do, but I think a lot of times, like as a football player, the guy I was going after was the guy with the ball. Everyone else was, are they friend, foe, or are they just in the way? And I think snipers, maybe among all of us, have the best abilities to discern the friendly Iraqi who's just trying to find a better life and the person who's viciously attacking and stalking and terrorizing the Iraqis and taking him out. And Chris became a master of that craft, just like Jane's husband, Chris, did in Afghanistan, parting out the really great people who do want a better life and love their children just like we do, from the ones who would do anything to accomplish some objective that is purely evil.
Well, I know that, Jane, you feel very proud of what your husband Chris did, and you say that on his headstone, you were only allowed 13 characters each line, and you decided to put valiant warrior, fearless sniper. Thank you for this that your family has made, and thank you too as well for your service, Clint. All the best to you.
You bet. Thank you.